Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name's Alicia Brashay here at Cosmic Gateway, and I am beyond privileged to have my next guest with me. It's been a while since we've sat down and done a recording, but I'm here with Daryl James. So, Daryl, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Good to be here, Alicia, and happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. So, it's been a while since we've sat down and did a recording together, and there's a lot of things that I wanted to talk about and get you to share, especially as we're here in the month of May. But before we get going, like, how are you? What have you been up to? I know that you've been in California and you've been doing conferences. What's been the latest things for you?
Yeah, I went to something called Alien Event in LA, California,
Mhm.
and it was a good event. I think I got 30 people there, and it was one of these events where several shows were going on, speeches were going on at once. So it was like six different things happening at once. So I think 30 people is pretty good. You
Yeah,
know, and I was just in like a little kind of conference room almost, and there was standing room only, and people were sitting on the floor. So I got a lot of people. It was
yeah,
good, and I've been good so far. I mean, I don't know. I've just had a positive outlook. It feels like I have more confidence. It feels like I'm not saying I'm back, answering that question,
mm,
but I feel like something has been like turned on in me where I feel like I could do things, be more confident. Usually, when I used to go to these events and things like that, I would be kind of, I don't know, not really, I guess, nervous. I would be nervous. I really wasn't nervous at this in LA this time around.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know, I feel like something's changed.
All right. Well, I think I have a little bit to add to that. So, it's great to hear that, and I think it's wonderful to hear that you have more confidence, especially when it comes to speaking engagements and the work that you do is so important. Um, so thank you, Daryl, for who you are and what you've been through, and the fact that you're here talking, for all of us to share. I think it's important at this time. So, um, during the month of May. Well, I've shared this on Cosmic Gateway. On my 40th birthday, I came back and I exited the programs, and I have the understanding that many returned soldiers have come back in the last 2 months. That people's consciousness has come back. So that would, what that would look like is exactly how you shared it. People would have more confidence, feel more yeah, here, I guess, present in their physical life in the world. So I had a vision in 2021 that there would be en masse returned soldiers from the programs and that people's consciousness would come back. And I believe that that has happened. And I think that ties into a lot of the information that I'm going to get you to share. Um, I thought about, the Second World War and, after the Second World War, how there was a sort of like a booming, it was the baby boomers, it was the booming economy. And I was correlating that to now and thinking if there was a en masse like return soldiers based off more of like consciousness and space coming back, how that would shift um, you know, an energy on the planet. It would shift having more people like yourself feeling empowered, confident, and ready to start their mission, their true mission here. But it would also change things like the economical system, legal system, and it would bring people together so that we could work to create a better world. So that's sort of my sort of philosophy and what I believe is happening in real time and affecting many people who have been involved in various programs. So based off that and speaking to you, it kind of validates it, which always makes me really happy when you have information to share about how you are to validate that we're in some really positive times.
Yes, yeah, I agree. But like I said, I remember getting like a 2-year extension from my 20-year back. And I remember saying before they took me, I still have a year. So I'm thinking, and I left, what was it, in 2004?
Hmm.
So this is 2024.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking probably sometime next year. But as I said, there feels like something has been activated. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit more? Is there anything more that you can share about, like, do you know approximately, was there a defining moment? Did you kind of wake up and feel different? Like, what has that been like for you?
Well, for me, it's just been, as I said before, more confidence, more sure of myself, more motivation to do things. Um, I wouldn't be depressed all the time, but sometimes I would feel down in the dumps and things like that. And that hasn't really happened that much. And also, if I did have a lot of stressors happening in my life, it felt like I just wanted to shut down. And instead of shutting down and just, avoiding problems, I'm facing problems more. And I'm better with that. I'm more confident with that. And it feels better. It feels better to face your problems and get it over with. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
mhm.
Otherwise, it just builds and it becomes, yeah, too much, overwhelming, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of had a policy like if I was so stressed out, I'm just going to take a nap.
Me too.
I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go to sleep for an hour, and it'll be all fine. Yeah, that's kind of.
Oh, Daryl, that's wonderful. It really, it makes me really happy to hear that. So, let's talk about the extension. Can you talk a little bit about when you were told that you were going to have a 2-year extension? When
I
was
mean,
that? Yeah.
that was when Robert was talking to me in the office, and he said they gave you a 2-year extension. He said they don't do that to a lot of people, and I asked him why. He said they liked you. It wasn't just like the people, the Pleiadian Nordic people, but it was the people actually in like the U.S. Navy and stuff like that knew about me and heard about me. I mean, I was pretty popular, I guess, because I mean, this kind of goes off topic a bit, but I went to what was that, Nottingham
Hmm.
in England. It's a big university town, and this guy out of the blue just asked me to go, and that woman April was with us, and I heard from the command it was like they were trying to get us to like hook up and a date and things like that. But I remember there was this like guy, this goofy kind of guy. He was strange. He had glasses. He was tall, and he just stared at me. And like everywhere I went, he would just look at me. And I asked Robert, I said, why was he acting that way? I said he looked at me like I was famous, and he said, "You are on the ship." He said he's in the program right now, and he was on your ship, and he just like came back to Earth, to work in this. You go back and forth. You just don't necessarily stay in the ship the whole time. And
Mm.
yeah, like he actually knew me from the ship, and it was really weird. It was eerie the way he stared at me with like a constant like grin, and it
Yeah,
made sense. Yeah, it made sense once Robert told me that. Yeah, he was on my ship and he knew me. He
yeah,
didn't know me personally, I don't think, but he just knew of me.
yeah. It's interesting. Thank you for bringing that up because I've had experiences like that too, and I'm sure a lot of people have. Where you see a stranger on the street and they're looking at you because there's a recognition, but you know that you don't know them or you haven't met them. Do you think that that is a phenomena that happens of people in the programs? Oh, I think we're give us
Yeah, hit a
a second.
sunspot or something. You're back.
Yeah, we're back. I was just saying, I think that's a phenomenon that happens a lot. Do you believe that that's tied into people recognizing one another from the programs, even though they may not consciously recognize there is a recognition there?
Yeah, this guy was conscious of it though. You could tell,
Ah,
he was
ah, yeah,
he
okay.
was still in the program at the time. He was still in the program.
Yeah, wow.
Well, I
So,
was still, and time travel is so constant in these things,
mm,
so it's hard to place them. Like at the time I was at in my life, I still would have been in Knockwalk, like in Dark Fleet, because this was only like a year, maybe not even a year. And but because they time travel and everything like that, so. time is an illusion, that whole thing.
Yeah, isn't it? And how, just it's slightly off topic, but how do you find now that you feel like you're at least maybe not entirely back, but probably, much more back than you have ever been? Are you finding like time slips or like distortion of time a little bit hard to manage, like in day-to-day life?
Distortion of time slips. How do you mean?
I give you an example, like, so I'm noticing it a lot. Um, you might wake up in the morning and next thing you know, it's like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and you're like, how did we go from 9 to 2? Like,
I mean, maybe, but I don't know. I don't really pay attention to it. I try to just carry on with my life, and I've always kind of had that policy of just it's best not to constantly think about it for me, because for me it's like you know there's people I love up there, there's children and everything like that, so I just kind of have a policy of it's best just not to think about it right now and just kind of carry on with my life as best as possible. But as
yeah.
far as just like time, I don't, every day it's kind of, isn't it? It's kind of like, every day you're like, whoa, it's dark outside, and like not every day, but that's kind of how how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, can we go into talking a little bit about your conversation with Robert and some of the things that he shared that I feel very strongly that is kind of prevalent right now in the month of May. Um, so, in particular, talking about the redistribution of wealth is what I've been calling it. Talking about the taxes, things like that. Just to give, I know that a lot of people are struggling, mental health, financially, even through, legal system. So, can you shed some light on what some of the things that Robert told you that we could kind of help us feel a sense of, I guess, relief of knowing potentially what's to come?
Well, I mean, he when he was looking down my timeline, he could see that Trump didn't win the second term, and that was supposed to happen according to Looking Glass. But there is like the 4% chance that it'll be a different outcome, and then a 2% variable on top of that.
Hmm.
And yeah, they didn't realize that he wasn't going to get the second term. I think he's going to get this one coming up, but I think it's also delayed things. And he even said it's going to be delayed, but he also said, they can delay it, but they can't stop it.
Yeah.
And he told me about the economy, that all the world's gold pretty much is in the catacombs of the Vatican. And he said it was a septillion, like enough to make everybody on Earth 100 millionaire. And it was, yeah, and he went in about the gold, and he said it would be released. He said, the Library of Alexandria was actually down in there. It wasn't actually burned up by Caesar. Before it was burned, they took everything out, all the books and scrolls and tablets. And he said history's a lie. He said that you know we come from the Atlanteans, pretty much is what he said. He said that was true.
Mhm.
But he said that the way it would work was all of your taxes would be returned to you from your labor and from major purchases like homes and cars and things like that. He said they wouldn't be able to give you back your taxes for clothing and things like that because they couldn't keep track of everything. But the major purchases, you would get all your taxes back, plus all your taxes back from you know all of your labor. And he said, adjusted for inflation. And he said the money, yeah, it would become more like the 50s, but better. It would become, you know, uh, we wouldn't be working for money anymore. Money would be working for us. And everybody would be able to take vacations. So he sounded like, he was almost about to cry while he was telling me all these things. And yeah,
Oh,
And
you're gonna
yeah,
make
and he
me
was
you're
what
gonna
else
make
did he
me
say?
emotional.
Yeah, yeah. And well, he said that we would get like a lump sum,
Okay. Yeah.
and that would be just for being here on Earth. I think it would be like, I think he said somewhere around 200,000, but adjusted for inflation, that would be like more like $7,000. Because money would no longer be inflated anymore. It would be the way it was back in the 50s, but even more so.
Yeah.
So that would be a lot of money. And he said things like, he said there would be homeless people,
Hmm.
people who just enjoy that lifestyle.
Yeah.
But he said those people would have to be relying directly off the kindness of strangers, because it's like you wouldn't get, like, if you're not willing to work, because everybody has to work because our infrastructure is going to change. There's going to be a lot more work for, there's going to be advanced trains, advanced public systems, public transit systems. The roads are going to be better. Everything's going to be pretty much rebuilt in the infrastructure. And he
Mm.
said we're going to need lots of workers. So to encourage people to work, if you want to get this money, you're going to have to work. You'll get the money, but then you'll be getting paid on top of that.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to work. And he said because things like med beds will be released, and even like mental disorders and things
What
like
was
that. Mental
mental?
disorders
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
agoraphobia and things like that. They'll be able to even fix things like that. People who feel like they can't leave their home and things. Yeah, all these different mental disorders will be gone. And I mean, the overall health, because we won't be getting poisoned anymore either. We won't be getting through our water, our food, our air, things like that. And even these 5G towers and all this other stuff. Like that's not going to be, if it's still around, it'll be used for something more good than bad. And he even kind of said like that, like this technology they installed, the military is going to use it, for to help the people instead of hurt the people.
Oh, music to my ears,
But
Daryl.
yeah, but he also said like kind of a song, something that sounds scary in the future is like, but it's not, I guess, because even on the world I was with, with the Pleiadians and everything like that, he said, Daryl, you have no privacy. You have to get that through your head. Like nobody has privacy. But it's also like going to be used as like a way, if somebody's up to no good and if nefarious things, it'll be a way to expose them quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that's just going to be a part of our technology. But right now, it's being used for more of a nefarious way. But in the future, it'll be used for more, of a positive kind of way.
Yeah.
And that sounds like kind of scary, but it's like I said, it's a way to make sure we don't get these kind of people in power, these Satanists that are gonna just use the system for themselves and enslave everybody else.
Yeah. It's such an important point. I'm glad you brought that up because for years I have thought that if we're moving into more of a society where our abilities are being switched on, which I believe is very much occurring right now, it means that things like telepathy and being energetically more sensitive, empathic, um, it it means that you can't kind of you can't lie. Everyone can. There's a transparency around. Yeah.
And he said that too, and I think I mentioned this in your last video I did with you, is yeah, English is a slave language,
Mm.
and he said it would be replaced with an introductory into telepathy, kind of
Yeah.
like to get you in the proper mindset to get
Hmm.
you ready for telepathy.
Hmm. Some exciting times ahead, but yeah, that's an adjustment for most people, and that's
Hmm.
gonna, yeah, for sure. Can you talk more to you touched on it, um, especially my dad, one of his questions, or throw in there too, um, talking about the technology that will be utilized for positive. So technology for like med beds and technology. Did Robert ever tell you anything about free energy or what that may entail? Like, would we have access to free energy?
Well, yeah, he talked about the 10 days of darkness kind of thing. He brought
Hmm.
that up,
Yeah.
but he said that that would be a part of it would be a transfer into Tesla, free energy. he said that Tesla was actually a channeler, and he was
Mm,
channeling technology from positive ETs and things like that, and that's actually what it was. But they're just going to call it Tesla free energy. And but he also said like the 10 days of darkness would also be the whole, exposing
mm,
the cabal thing,
mm,
where we're going to be almost like on a lockdown like we were with COVID because they want everybody to be at home. They're going
mm,
to have like the National Guard come out to feed people and things like that. They're going to give people rations and everything like that. But they
mm.
want you to stay home and they want you to watch, the hearings that are going to take place. And he said that, you're going to hit Google and that's going to be the only thing you can watch. And it's going to be like that for several days, and you're going to turn on your television set and that's all you can watch. You turn on the radio, that's all you can listen to. Because they want like everybody to, go through kind of like this traumatic event. So it affects our DNA memory, as he said, which is a
Yeah.
way to make sure it will never happen again. He said we could step in, it'll just happen in 100 years. But yeah, he said the military could step in and change everything right now, but it would
Mm,
just happen in 100 years. So we have to go through this kind of
mm,
painful birthing process, I guess, into like a higher enlightenment in order for us, our children's children, that's what DNA memory is. You pass it on to the next generation and so on and so forth. And
mm.
to make sure that, the people are wise to it so it won't ever happen again. But yeah, like things like Medbeds, he told me that would be released. He told me the first thing you would see would be the smart glass or the smartphone, which is based off the smart glass pad and everything like that.
Mhm.
So, I
Do
mean,
you, I haven't seen it, but I have heard my dad talking about the Tesla phones. Do you think that that may be somehow in relation to the smart glass pads, or is that a step towards it, perhaps?
is that the new Samsung phone that's clear? I've seen those. I don't know about the Tesla phone, but I've seen the clear phones that look almost like a mini smart glass pad.
Is
Where
that
they're
the out?
clear. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's, you know, I've been dreaming about those phones for like 8, 9 years, and in them they were like exactly as you described, but they had holographics that would pop up. So, like, let's say you wanted to Google a location, and you could put it in, and then it would come up with, as it, our smartphones do, but then it would pop up with a holographic that you could interact with. Very cool stuff.
hmm Yeah, that's how they work. Yeah. The smart glass pad.
Can you, for those who might not be familiar with it, can you share a little bit about like your experience using them and what you got access to while using smart class beds?
Well, I mean, using it, you could do things like you said. You can kind of go put your fingers on the pad and pull up and pull the image right out. You
Mm,
can open it. You put your hand in it and do that, and it zooms into the part you want to see closer. You touch the sides, the corners, and you kind of just clear your thoughts. A lot of ET tech is like that, and it's like a telepathic link. It kind of knows what you want,
mm, mm,
and yeah, like that was one of the major things. They use it for everything, and they call it universal ET tech, is what they call it, which means all ETs have this technology. Medbeds, the smart glass pad, regen tanks, things like that. This is like a universal ET tech where they all have it. And
mm,
yeah, it's very common, and it's so common for them that they really couldn't see living in a world without it. I guess you would say. Same thing with the med beds and everything else. So, but yeah, I remember that with the smart glass pad. It was just something you always needed, and I remember like being in Nachtwaffen, and most of the other guys they only had access to certain kinds of music. I think mostly classic, the ones that were like me. But since I played an instrument, I got unlimited use for all kinds of music and all that stuff. I listen to I still today I listen to a lot of 60s and 70s and things like that. And Robert told me, he said like you listen to 30s, 40s, 50s, but he said you listen to primarily 60s and 70s. And that's pretty much how I am. I listen to like everything about music. I don't like listen to any kind of particular time or decade of music. And he was naming
actually,
off songs to me and stuff, yeah, that I
you
didn't know
just
at the time, but then I knew later, yeah.
you just completely segued into my next notes. So thank you, Daryl. I truly believe that part of this new world that we're creating is very much based on creativity, and music is a huge part of that. Um, and you play guitar, do you?
Not so much anymore, but I did. And I even said that to Robert whenever he said, I said I play guitar. He said, "You're the best person I ever heard." And I said, "But I haven't played in years." And he said, "Daryl, you're playing right now." Like he kind of said it to me like that. And it was just like that whole time travel thing, sharing a consciousness kind of thing. Like he's like, "You're playing right now." You don't. He was trying to convey to me at the time that what time travel truly means, and I really didn't understand it really what he was saying. But I
Mm.
guess now I understand it more. But yeah, I mean, I don't play as much as I used to. I just don't. I think it's probably a part of. I don't know if I would consider it painful, but just a memory. I don't know.
Mm. Mm.
Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm afraid to remember. I don't know. Maybe I got back when I first got out of the military. I went to college and I met my old guitar teacher and everything like that, and I started getting into it again. And then I don't know. I just didn't play as much.
I'm going to interject something here, to tie it into the whole music thing. And I've shared this a little bit, talking about some of the celebrities, because I know that you've mentioned like the is it called the 28 Club, people who seemingly passed on or left the public eye. And I know that we've spoken about Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson spoke to me many years ago and told me that there would be, a project or to something to look forward to in the future that would create a whole new genre of music that would help change and heal the world. Um, I believe that that's the stage that we're moving into. And how do you see that music is going to help heal people, especially with like the mental health, and like, do you have any thoughts around like how music has been healing for you?
Well, I mean, the hertz, I've heard about the hertz where it's different kinds of hertz they use, like older music. It wasn't until like the 60s or so where they changed the hertz frequency of music. I think that's why I like Jimi Hendrix a lot, is because I think he used like the old hertz frequency. He didn't like change.
Hmm.
But I mean, yeah, music is healing for me. It's not only healing, but it triggers memories for me because I remember hearing songs, playing songs, and then different memories would trigger as I listen to these songs while I'm walking my dog and things like that. I'm always listening to music, and I
Mm.
kind of almost replay some top parts of my life
Mm.
while I'm listening to music and things like that. Like I said, like the Pleiadians, they would have almost like a family day once a week, and I would play music for them, and I would play music for them, and they liked it, and they enjoyed it. They didn't have music like we did. Their music was more like a nature
Mm.
kind of thing, kind of putting nature sounds together. They're natural of their home world, birds and things like that. The birds they have on their world, and this different sounds of nature kind of put together.
Hmm.
And the 20, I think it's the 27 Club,
Oh,
and yeah,
27. Sorry,
I
yeah.
think that's what it is. Yeah. And Robert told me about that. He said that everybody who's in the 27 Club, he said that it was kind of like a wink and a nod to let, you know, I don't know, the Satanists know, like, I'm done with this. I'm not doing this anymore. And yeah, and you know, Jimi Hendrix is still alive, but he said he died of heart disease in the 90s, but he lived. And, Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin, just all those people who died at 27. Those
Mm-hmm.
people were all still alive. But he also, Marilyn Monroe were still alive.
Mm.
But he said those people weren't going to come into the public. They're happy with their life, and they just want to stay what they're doing. So they're not ever going to come out publicly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That, and even Elvis too. Elvis, I believe, is in Hawaii.
Well, I heard he was a preacher, and I've heard that from different people afterwards. He told me that I forget what state, somewhere in the South, he became like a pastor.
Yeah, okay. I mean, think about how many people love all these, musicians and how influential they have been over decades. And yeah, it's I think that probably brings a smile to some people's face to know that they're actually still around and they're not. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's cool. Okay, so can we go back to the legal system a little bit because there's a couple of components. You talked about the 10 days of darkness and the trials being broadcast. Um,
Yeah, pretty much 24/7. Like that's the only thing you can watch.
yeah,
Internet, TV, anything, radio. That's the only thing you're going to be able to watch.
and
You want to go deeper into detail about that?
well, yeah, a little bit. I'll share the thoughts that have come to my mind, and just how I see the financial system and the judicial system kind of interwoven because I see that the legal system and how it has been basically is just to 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 make money really off people suffering, you know, emotionally as well, how taxing it is to watch people go through legal situations and especially people who have been wrongfully accused, defamation, these types of issues that people go through, and also how it breaks up family units. Like it creates a lot of stress. And I believe that those people who have gone through that should receive some sort of compensation for their loss, loss of work or life or whatever it is that they have suffered or endured during that process. So I'm wondering whether the trials being displayed, I believe it probably ties into Donald Trump. Um, and perhaps if those people who are in the system right now, that there will be a shift in when the financial system gets, you know, changes, it's going to free a lot of people who have been held up in that system, and it's going to give a freedom. It's going to give prosperity, and it's going to make a real difference in people's lives who've had or endured hardship because of that. So anything you want to add to that? But yeah, please go into more detail about what Robert may have shared around that.
Well, I mean, he didn't go into vast details about the legal system and people in prison and incarcerated. I mean, he did, but it was like, I mean, he really didn't go into that much. I don't know about people being retried, and I don't know about people getting a any kind of benefit or anything like that if they were falsely accused. I think a lot of people do get, some sort of benefit when they get falsely accused. But then the court system will find them guilty of some misdemeanor, so you're unable to sue them.
Mhm.
I've heard of that, happening a lot, where people will get off for murder and things like that, and then they'll add on some sort of strange misdemeanor while you were in prison, and that makes it so you're not able to sue.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I really don't remember any kind of memory of any kind of financial anything like that. But I mean, as far as the actual trials, he said that were going to be shown. He said, yeah, he's like, you're going to see all these politicians. Some of them are going to be hung. You're gonna see the actual military tribunal take place.
Mm-hmm.
Tribunals usually only take place whenever they have a lot of evidence on someone. It's just three military officers. We're going to be in a kind of state of like a military law for a while, and I think it's usually admirals actually that do it, like Navy admirals. They're the ones that do it, and yeah, it's just going to be very quick. They're going to have video evidence on them. They're going to say you did this, that, that. How do you plead and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's going to be over, and then you're going to see the next happen, and the next happen, and the next happen, and then you're going to get to a point where you're going to start seeing the actual executions being carried out. And I said like I felt like that was kind of barbaric to the public execution,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, I don't think that's right. And when he mentioned about the whole Hillary Clinton thing with the little kid and the little girl and Hillary Clinton, he said not only does the United States demand to see her executed, he says the entire world will demand to see her executed when they see what she's done. So it's going to be one of these things where the people are going to be ready. It's kind of
Yeah.
like how he said it to me. And he said when you see this little girl, you're going to see your own daughter. Is how he put it. He said like everybody's like going to want to see her. He said it would cause riots, basically. It would cause like disturbances if the people didn't get to see them executed for the
Yeah.
things they.
Yeah. And I've I mean, I think many people who are truth seekers have known about this information for a long time. But I think probably for the average person in the general population, to have them ready to be able to digest some of this information has taken a lot longer than what a lot of us would have liked, perhaps. I think there's a lot of frustration in the communities who've kind of been waiting for this for years, and it hasn't kind of eventuated. But I believe that we're here now.
Hmm. I think so too.
Um, oh, okay, that just brings up so many. Um, Perhaps before we go into the next part that I want to talk to you about, for those who may be struggling with any type of illness or mental health, can you just talk a little bit more in detail about the the first wave of medbed technology and what that will do, or how that will help people in their health or mental health?
Well, I'm not sure exactly how the order is going to go. I've heard rumors on that and things like that. They're going to do, I'm sure it's going to be people who are emergency cases first, people who have cancer and things like that. He said that these people who got the vaccines and all this other stuff, they're going to be able to fix that with the med bed
Mm,
and all this stuff. But I mean, as far as the order it's going to happen, I'm not really. He didn't really talk about that. But
mm,
he said it will all be repaired. He said people will die and things like that, but it's something that has to happen. It's part of this, like I said, this painful birthing process that we're going to go through. That
mm,
there has to be. This is what they were going to do to you, and this is what they had planned for you, and this is what was going to happen. So the people have to like really understand that.
mm,
And as far as this med beds, I mean, they could pretty much do anything. I
yeah.
mean, unless it's like something really critical, that's the only time you need like a healing tank. You wouldn't need a healing tank unless it was like, you were like severed in half or something like that. It would be like clinical death is basically what healing tanks are for. But, med beds can pretty much cure everything else. And the difference between a med bed and a healing tank, he told me he said healing tanks really aren't that good for you. He said that, it kind of like liquefies you and then reconstitutes you. So you go through almost like a form of death.
Mm,
And he says when you go through clinical death, it kind of takes a part away from you of your conscious, like who you were, like as far as your soul, your consciousness. Not necessarily your soul itself, but I guess it's the way the body interacts with the soul or something.
yep.
And it's almost like making a copy of a copy. Like when you Xerox something and then
Mhm,
you take that copy and you Xerox it again, it gets kind of lighter and lighter every time you do it. And the
mm,
same thing with like, going through a clinical death or going into a med or going into a healing tank. But he said med beds you can go into every day if you want, and there's no adverse effects.
yeah.
But he says it won't actually like it's not actual age regression of the med bed. That's a different technology.
Mhm,
He says it won't get rid of like gray hair and things like that, but it'll tone you up. Like it'll tighten up your skin. It can make you more physically fit. If it'll help you lose weight. It'll take your extra weight off. So it's like everybody's just going to be really healthy. Everybody's just going to be extremely healthy people that look
well,
nice.
yeah, well, when I look back at my dream notes, so I dream from last year to now, I realized that I was experiencing the timeline of this year in my dream space last year. So when I look back at the dreams, in July, it was about age reversal technologies. Uh, oh, oh, we glitch. I think we're back. Um, Hang on. Yeah. Um, so July was age reversal technologies, but it was also teleportation. Do you know anything about like like the ability to teleport, or is that did Robert ever cover that? The human um, abilities would be able to do things like that?
Teleportation. You broke up near the end.
Yes, sorry.
Teleportation in what sense? Know about it?
To be able to like literally like say for example, I'm sitting here in Melbourne, Australia, and I'm like, I want to go see Daryl for a coffee, and I could just teleport into your lounge room. We could have a coffee, and then I could come home.
I don't know about teleportation, but he also, I mean, he said to me about teleportation. One of the things he said was when the reptile took me into the looking glass teleport, to go to the moon. He said you'd have to be, you couldn't be third density to use it,
Yeah,
is what he said. And
yeah.
I said, well, what would happen? He said you'd just get pushed through his arm and fall on the ground. He would go through, and you
Hmm.
wouldn't be able to go through. He said that third density beings can't see or use, portals, teleportation portals, things like that. He told me that the Babylonian arch they had in the courtyard of the Vatican was actually an active portal, but we wouldn't be able to see it. They brought it to the courtyard of the Vatican. He said, but we can't use it.
Hmm.
And he also said like that whole thing he did where he kind of appeared at one end of the room and appeared at the other when I first saw him. He said that naturally occurring portals happen. And when I walked into the room, two portals opened up, and that's how he did that. He kind of skipped through time like 3 seconds. There's like
Wow.
a natural, there like portals kind of naturally happen and naturally occur. And it's not something you, because I said do it again. He said I can't. He said there's no more portals. So it's not like something you could just do,
Yeah,
because you're a fifth density being. It's something that it's like a naturally occurring thing that happens. You
yeah,
see it open and you can just step through it.
yeah, yeah.
But
I
I mean,
believe.
as far as like using them, I'm not really 100% if we're gonna. He said, I remember him saying too that portals, it actually affects your DNA when you use them too much, or even using them once or twice. It's just slight little things, but it's something that can be fixed with a med bed.
Yeah.
But it does kind of affect your DNA a little bit every time you use a portal.
Hmm. 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 I I'm of the belief that, most of the people who are here right now, especially those who've chosen to kind of come and honor like a soul mission to change the world. I think that we all have those natural abilities, and that there will be a period of time, perhaps now until, the rest of the year, that we're going to have to adjust to having all those abilities come online and learning how to work with them, you know. Um, so I feel it's exciting times, but it's almost being reborn again. It's this birthing process to remember who we are, why we're here, and to readjust or acclimatize to the abilities that we naturally have that we've forgotten. And it's like learning to walk and talk and move around again. So I think it's going to be some fun, exciting times to learn these new soul skills and abilities. But yeah, it's going to take time to adjust to that, from going to working a 9 to 5 and paying your bills to, like, oh, I can do these cool things. Like, it's a bit of an adjustment period. Yeah.
And I mean, if they do have a very advanced ET tech, you won't even have to use like a portal. If you want
Mm.
to go, you could get into a craft and be on the other side of the world in like 2 seconds. It would take you longer to prepare the ship, like walk into the ship and sit down, than it would be to actually move. From.
I'm gonna say, do you think that that will become available to us as well? I know that the rail systems, like the train systems and all that, but will we have access to like craft to be able to travel quite quickly from one place to another?
Well, I don't think like we're all going to be given one to put in our garage or anything like
Damn
that.
it.
But yeah, I don't think it's going to be like the Jetsons. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be something I believe that's going to be a part of the future, and I'm not sure if it's going to happen in my lifetime. Maybe, but it'll definitely be something that will be a part of our future.
Yeah, I believe so too.
Hmm.
All right, so I would love to talk about something that you shared with me off camera um, earlier in the year that really was a defining moment for me. Um, so if you could talk about the conversation that you had with the king, and um, if you're okay to share that.
Yeah, it was after Mother like attacked me. Her name was I believe Robert said her name was Sharai was
Mhm.
her name. And yeah, I said that they normally do things like that. He said no, and I said, well, why did she attack me? He said because of you. And I said, well, what did I do? He said, you didn't do anything. It was just because of you. And she was strong, and I was trying to hold her down. She came after me and was like screaming and yelling and stuff like that. And
Oh, sorry, before you continue, just a little bit of backstory. Where were you, just for those who may not be familiar with your story?
I was on their world. It was like one of the worlds of the star of Taygeta in
Yeah.
the Pleiades star cluster. And like, what is it? Tamar and I forget what their names, but that's accurate. Somebody wrote that down. And I remember Robert talking about their different worlds, and I wasn't on the world of the king. I
Mhm.
wasn't on his world. I was on the world next door. And that's when I said, like, wasn't it hard to get to their world? He's like, you just use a ship. And I said, well, doesn't that take a long time? And that's when he told me that it takes more time to prepare the ship than it does to actually go to this other world in a solar system. Like actually getting in, sitting down, establishing a telepathic link with the ship, which is, like I said, a lot of ET tech and stuff like that. It requires that.
Mhm.
And yeah, like she attacked me because she was jealous of this other woman I was going to be with. I was going to be with leader, like a female leader, and he was upset. She was upset about that, and I was leaving her. And when I was holding her down, I said something like just to alarm them. I said, "Is someone going to help me, or shall I break her leg and hobble her?" I didn't mean I was going to do it, but I just wanted to get their attention because she was coming at me, biting and everything else.
Mhm.
And two warrior casts came up and grabbed her and like took her away. And then the king said something like, "Why did you say that?" I said that was the only way I could get your attention. I said that's how all of you are. I said whenever something happens that you're not expecting, you all just get wide eyed and your mouths open up and you just stare. Like that's all you do. Like they just kind of like they just kind of do that. Like they don't know
Is
like
that
what to do.
is that like me and my friends joke about the fluoride stare?
Yeah, yeah, like slack jawed. Yeah, that I said that, and he said, "What's slack jawed?" And I did it, and I turned around, and there was a crowd. A lot of time, I'd have a crowd when I talked to him because they were all kind of interested in me. And I said, "That's what you're doing right now to my world." I said, "You're just standing there and you're staring and you're not doing anything." I said, if there was a woman being raped and two men passed her, not only did they pass her, they stopped and they just watched it happen. I said, wouldn't those two men be just as guilty as the perpetrator? And he said, yes. And I said, well, that's what your world's doing right now. I said, my world's being raped and you're just standing there and staring at it and watching it happen. And I said, I said something like, now that you know this, this is going to be upon you and your children and your children's children, now that I've told you this. And he said, you're right. And yeah, well, basically how I put it was, just get the boot off our neck and help us stand up and we can do the rest. I said, there's others like me that'll do the rest. And I said, that's all I'm asking for. And then he said, you're right. We'll help you. And Robert actually said that they weren't going to help us until I said that to him. Like they were just going to kind of stay neutral and stay out of the whole thing. And he said, now they're going to help us. And he said that like before, he said that, you know, we wouldn't know about extraterrestrials. He said, but I helped change that. Like they're gonna show themselves things like that because of that event. So before, like he said, the people weren't ready for it. You know what I mean? And then he said, but you changed that.
Like, I'm not going to get emotional, promise myself. But when I hear you share those stories and just to know what you have gone through as being a part of the programs, what you've gone through in this lifetime alone, and the role that you've played to help liberate Earth so that we can all have a better future, and to come back and to share the memories that you have and the conversations that you've had with Robert is has been so helpful for me, and I'm sure sharing this will help so many others right now to know that we are moving into much better times, much more free, liberated, prosperous times where we can stand together and stand strong.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm ready to. So, well, I just want to thank you, and I would love to. I mean, there's so much that we could cover, and I'd love to, bring you back, and we'll do some more conversations moving forward if you're okay with that. Um,
Yeah, yes.
what would be like anything else that you feel inspired to share that you feel like would be helpful for anyone watching right now?
Well, for me, I mean, it's just I have a policy of, where there's life, there's hope, and I think people don't they don't understand that. That I think a lot of people just completely give up hope.
Mhm,
And I mean, I know it's been frustrating and it's been difficult for lots of people, and everything's getting more expensive,
mhm,
everything's getting more difficult. Having ends meet and everything like that is more difficult for everyone. But
mhm,
I mean, realize you're not alone. I mean, this is happening to everybody, and it's happening for a reason. And the reason is because they're showing you what they had planned for you. They were gonna do Carl Schwab, where you own nothing and you'll like it, kind of thing, and that's what they had planned for you. And they're kind of showing you, if you just tell someone, ET say this a lot. They say you need the experience. They'll tell you something once, and if you don't listen to them, then they'll say you need the experience. And it can be painful, it can be difficult, but it's just an experience you need, and that's the way it is. I mean,
mhm,
people, here they say that. I remember I was acting up in high school and things like that. My mom said something to my father, like, "What are we going to do with him?" And my dad said, "He'll learn." Like that. And that's like really what it is. It's like you really don't learn until you have to go through the actual trial and error of life itself. And and people say like, well, when's it going to happen? And what's it going to do? When's it going to that? It's going to happen when we're ready for it to happen. It's going to happen when we're at the point where we're ready to pretty much like revolt. Is pretty much they want us to get to a point where we're about like on the verge of an all-out revolt, and then they'll step in. But they want us to get to that point. They want us to realize all these things they did, and what their true intentions were, and what they actually had planned for us. They just don't want to tell us. They want us to live it. They want us to live the experience of it, and
yeah,
that's what's important. And that's what you're going through right now. You're going through this experience, and it's not. And that's like if I was to say from the programs, what did I learn? What was the secret, the meaning of life, the meaning of the universe? For me, what I learned was it's not supposed to be good or bad or happy or sad. It's the experience. Like that's what life is in my opinion. Like, life is an experience, and that's what the point of life is.
mhm,
And yeah, I mean, it's tough right now, but
mm,
look at the things you have, I mean, always look at the things you have. Don't ever look at the things you don't have.
yeah, absolutely. Daryl, like beautifully brought that into full circle. I can't thank you enough for your time, for your presence, your energy, what you bring, your wisdom, your wealth of knowledge, and the lived experience. Um, so I just want to, and also I think just to share with people who are going through a lot of challenges right now, mentally, emotionally, energetically, I can feel a real build up that's occurring where there's a lot of release of anger and rage and emotion. So I think we are right now being prepared for everything that you've just shared. It's palpable. You can feel it. So just want to thank you so much for your time. Um, Daryl James,
Of
true legend.
course, and happy birthday again.
Um, so just as a side note, Energia, the event project is restarting this weekend. There'll be details that will be shared for all the conscious creators and everyone who's participated, such as Daryl James. There is an interview there that will be able to access on the platform, which is a one not to miss. Um, I am hosting a soul journey All the details will be in the description box below. And Elevation Training Part 3 is specifically designed for the returned consciousness of people who are coming back from various programs, to help them integrate better and to be able to understand and to navigate into getting on their soul path. So all the details will be in this description box below. Daryl, are you going to come to Australia? Are you going to come and hang out?
That's a long flight. I don't know.
We'll get you on
Like I said, I've been to Japan. That's like 18 hours. That's a difficult flight.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can work towards a goal that you can drive your ship. Can we get that ship here? Can you?
the, sh- the ship I piloted was way too big. Yeah,
Oh,
you need a smaller craft.
okay. Well, if we can get a craft, would you go and pick up everyone and come here? Would that be
Oh
okay?
yeah, of course. And then we could go hang out on Mars. Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about Mars, but could we go to Venus? Could you take us?
We could. Yeah, yeah, of course. In a matter of seconds. Yeah.
I am so down for that. I am ready. So thank you so much. I look forward to reconnecting with you. Thank you so much, everyone who has taken the time to watch this very special conversation with Daryl. And we'll come back with more content soon. So thank you, Daryl. Thank you, everyone. Until next time, know that we are moving into some marvelous times for humanity. Sending much love to everyone.